everybody, and welcome to my channel. If you're considering moving to or buying real estate in the Charlotte, North Carolina area, you are in the best place to learn more. My name is Ashley Bachman, and I'm a real estate agent with eXp Realty, servicing the Charlotte area and its surroundings. If you're interested in hiring me as your realtor, you can find my contact information as well as my consultation sign up in the caption of this video and any video, as well as the homepage of my channel. And now let's get into today's video. As you can see, we are looking at a map. We are looking at Google Maps. Yes, you could do this on your own, but I think let's do it together. Oftentimes, when you are exploring a new city or you've just moved to a new city, one of the first things that you need to calibrate yourself to is the map. Like, how long does it take to get to certain places? Or when you hear people refer to a particular neighborhood or a particular sub-city, where the heck is that, right? And we're constantly going to the Google Map to figure out where that is. And so we're going to take a really high level approach and just introduce you. So if this is one of the first times that you're looking at Charlotte and you're just trying to get your feet grounded into the different subsidies, how far it takes to get certain places, the major highways, and where, other main cities of interest are and how far away they are, we're just going to take a really high level approach. So we're zoomed way out. Let's zoom even further out. Let's not get too crazy. Okay, US, we're on the East Coast. What I love about North Carolina is it's really right in the middle of the East Coast. So the temperature is we get all four seasons, but it's very mild and moderate. We could talk about that in other videos. But I just love where we're located. You can, in 10-hour drive, get to Tampa. In a 7.5-hour drive, you can get to Washington, D.C. In 6 hours or so, you could get over to Nashville, Tennessee. And 7 hours, you can get to Cincinnati. So as you can see, there's just so many places of interest that we can easily get to, and all the obviously interesting cities in between all of that. Oh, and a few others. Let's mention Savannah, Georgia is 4 hours. Charleston, South Carolina is 3 hours. Atlanta is 4 hours. This is all from Charlotte. So North Carolina, really accessible in terms of where we are in the country. And if you look at it in terms of latitude, it's almost right in the same latitude as like the Bay Area. So we have really good warm summers and blue skies and all that good stuff. Anyway, zooming into North Carolina, I would say there's a couple main cities of interest in North Carolina: Charlotte, Raleigh, and Durham, which are really close to each other, Greensboro and Winston-Salem, which are really close to each other. You can see that as I start zooming in, those popping up. And then, of course, West North Carolina, we've got Asheville, which is a really great mountain city of interest. And then all the way on the coastline, a few areas of interest in North Carolina would be Wilmington, which is all the way down here, pretty close to the South Carolina border, not to confuse with Myrtle Beach, which is, in fact, a South Carolina city. So that's a little bit about where we're at. Charlotte, as you can see, is really close to the South Carolina border. So a lot of people who might be considering living in Charlotte, depending on where exactly they want to live or where they might be working and commuting to, might actually be living in South Carolina. Other reasons for that could be preferences for political reasons, preferences for tax reasons, all sorts of things. So Charlotte is very close to South Carolina in terms of real estate. You're going to find a lot of real estate agents that are licensed in North Carolina and South Carolina. So depending on where you're interested in. Let's zoom a little bit further in. What I want to mention are a couple geographic points of interest, and that's these two lakes that we see here. And you should be able to see my cursor, but I'm going to grab the pen here. This lake right here is Lake Norman. It's a man-made lake, but it's ginormous. And when we zoom in a little bit further, this lake right here is Lake Wylie. That is a natural lake, and if you zoom all the way in, it looks kind of like a river, but they do call it Lake Wylie. It goes into South Carolina. Lake Norman, I would say, is an area where a lot of people from the Northeast that want to not be too far south, but want to live on the lake and want to live somewhere where there's a little bit of lake life, a little bit of luxury, a little bit of quietness, close to a city if you need anything. Lake Norman is definitely a hot spot, and we'll have other videos focusing on Lake Norman. But a couple of areas I want to talk about as we briefly discuss what is around the Lake Norman area would be Mooresville. I don't know why it's hovering over cars. Let me get my pen again. Mooresville is a city of interest. It is topping the charts for massive appreciation. There are some definitely affordable houses there, as well as some luxury living. If you want to be closer to the lake or a little bit inland on this path here, there's a lot of luxury homes and the cutest downtown. So Mooresville is an area where a lot of people are moving to because you can still find some affordable housing in that spot. Cornelius is the southeast part of Lake Norman and is probably the most expensive city on Lake Norman. And you can understand why. It's also closest to Charlotte, so you can get access to Charlotte as needed. But Cornelius is definitely an area of higher price points. If you're looking around $400, $450, depending on what you're looking for, how much yard space you're looking for, you're probably priced out of that area for sure. On the west side of Lake Norman, it's a little bit quieter. You've got Denver here, not to be confused with Denver, Colorado, but this is a town some people go to. It's pretty quiet. Cheryl's Ford, there's a lot of development and new construction, even happening on the lake, but these are quieter parts of the city. And since we're talking about lakes, let me just zoom down here to Lake Wylie. A couple interesting things to mention about Lake Wylie, and we'll just stick to North Carolina for now. But Belmont is a city of interest. Belmont is right flanked in between the two, what these are called Catawba River. Let's zoom all the way in so you can see that. Catawba River right here. Oh, craziness with my pen. Hold on, people. All right. Catawba River right here. Belmont right here. We're flanked in between the two. Cramerton's a pretty small town, but I would say when you're looking at Belmont, if you're interested in this area, you might be looking at Cramerton, Belmont, McAdenville, and then if we zoom up a little bit, Mount Holly. Now, Mount Holly really doesn't have much of a downtown. If you want anything, you got to get to Belmont, but Belmont has a really cute downtown. One of the reasons I like it is, let's talk about this. Belmont to Charlotte is about 30 minutes. Not too bad. And Belmont to the Charlotte airport right here, really, really close. I would say, depending on exactly where you live in Belmont, about 15 minutes. And you've got the major highway here, which is 85. So really easy to get from Belmont into Charlotte if you're willing to live about 30 minutes from the city. It's a quiet town, definitely affordable homes out there. And I like that you can still be close to the airport. Let's zoom back out. And let's go back north. Okay, so we have 2 points of reference. We have the 2 lakes of interest. And now let's come down to Huntersville. So if you are researching Charlotte, North Carolina and places of interest to maybe consider, there's all these sub-cities, right? Huntersville is not a neighborhood. It's a sub-city. I'm calling it a sub-city, meaning, it's in the Charlotte region. And the Charlotte region is massive. In fact, let me see. If I type that on, hello, let's see if I type Charlotte region, if it'll give us an outline. Yeah. Well, this is like more of like the metro, but like really the Charlotte region is like out through Lake Norman, Belmont. All of this is very Charlotte regional, even up into Concord, Kannapolis. So I wouldn't call that too accurate. I would say that's more the metro area. Anyway, Huntersville is something you're probably going to see when you're doing your Google searches and exploring the area. Huntersville is an area of interest a lot of people like, as well as Matthews, and we'll get down to that in a moment. Excuse me. But the reason why I like Huntersville, and again, we're going to have so many other videos talking about the cities in specific, what your price points are there, what your attraction, areas of interest and amenities are there. We'll talk about those in specific videos targeting those cities and neighborhoods. But I just want to talk about the map and have you understand that from Huntersville down into the Charlotte metro, you're probably looking at about 20-25 minutes, depending on the time of day. So let's use Uptown as a point of reference as we discuss how long it takes to get from one place to another. So if I do Huntersville to Uptown Charlotte, And right now it's 4:30 p.m. on a weekday. We're going from Huntersville to Charlotte. Not a lot of traffic. You're looking at about 15 minutes. If we were to flip that, we're starting to add a little bit of traffic, and I bet in the next hour we'll see a little bit more. Now, before I go any further, assuming that this is one of your first videos checking out Charlotte, I need to explain Uptown really quick, because let's just get that out of the way. There is no downtown Charlotte. If you come here and you say, I'm going to downtown Charlotte, they will know you're not from here. But listen, a lot of people are moving to Charlotte and North Carolina, so a lot of us aren't from here. But there's no downtown. There's only uptown. I don't know why we like to be fancy and fun, but the downtown is uptown. So we're going to use that as our central point. As you can see, that's the very center of the metro area, so that you can understand how to get to all these places. So that's how far you can expect for Huntersville. Now, because we were talking about Matthews as another area of interest that you will probably see, like a really family-friendly area, if you're okay living 20-25 minutes from the center of the metropolitan, these are areas that you might consider. But as you can see right now, again, it's 4:30, and let me actually refresh this because I feel like something weird happened with my... Something weird happened. We are live, folks. Let me type this in again. I want you to see the real-time traffic. So again, it's 4:30 p.m. on a weekday. So from Matthews into the city, about 25 minutes. So that's what you can typically expect for that way. But most people might be commuting out of the city to Matthews right now. And you can see how right now it's already 35 to 40 minutes. And we still probably have another hour and a half of that building. So without traffic, you're fairly close to the metropolitan, but I would definitely suggest, depending on what you're looking for, how close you want to be, what your central point is, where you're trying to work, how far you're willing to commute, definitely look at the difference between traffic times. So this Highway 74 is the main route between Uptown and Matthews and Monroe, and it's called Independence Boulevard, and there can definitely be some traffic during rush hour on that part. All right, so since we're talking about distance from Uptown, let's do a few more, and I'll just come back to Belmont and prove my point. Now, typically without traffic, you're going to be looking at 30 minutes, but it's not even offering 85. As you can see, if you picked 85, you'd be in dead stop traffic. So while I love Belmont as a town, I wouldn't suggest it if you're someone that's got to work in the city, depending on what you're willing to do commute-wise. From Uptown to go home to Belmont right now is already 40 to 50 minutes, and it'll probably be about an hour by the time you get there. So not my favorite. Not my favorite. Let's zoom out and talk about some other areas. Okay. I'm going to take a clockwork. I'm going to go in clockwork pattern here and show you a couple other cities to keep in mind. I'm going to skip what you see over here. I'm highlighting it. It says Stanley, Lowesville. I'm going to grab my pen again. These areas, I'm literally going to skip that because there's nothing fun, fancy happening there. It's pretty quiet. If you want to be in a quiet part of town, you can go that direction. But I'm actually going to go past Huntersville because we already talked about it. I'm going to go over to this area. It says Concord. So if you're in Uptown right now and you want to go home to Concord, you're going to be looking at 45 minutes, and you're going to be taking this main Highway 85. Remember how that cut over this way? Now it's coming up south, going northeast to Concord. Concord is a really massive town. It's pretty expansive, and it's an area of interest that I would definitely say is worth exploring. You've got the Charlotte Motor Speedway. Charlotte is the birthplace of NASCAR, so you've got the Motor Speedway here. But between this lower part of Charlotte here and between this lower part of Concord here and what I would say up here is the little downtown Concord, super cute, just finished construction, and a really cute little downtown. This is a big difference here in terms of drive time. So it depends on what part of Concord you want to live. But if we said Uptown to the Motor Speedway, Here we go. We're looking at 33 minutes. One thing I like about this general quadrant of the city, if you're looking to be 25 to 30 minutes out from the center of the metropolitan, is that it's a really livable area. You've got Concord Mills, which has all the shopping you could ever desire, pretty close to where I was just targeting before. You can see Dave & Buster's. It's got a huge mall up here. We also have a regional airport up here that you probably won't be doing any flying in and out of, but it does exist. Just all the shopping, Targets and all the things. If you live anywhere like Harrisburg or this Newell area, or if you live here, which is University area, Charlotte University, it's all really easy to get to Concord Mills and to get access to all the basic livable shopping needs that you might have. And then since we're up looking at Concord, let's talk about Kannapolis. A little bit further up, as you can see, we're looking at a little bit more traffic. Again, this is from uptown. But Kannapolis and Concord up here, both of these downtowns have just been renovated, either completion right now or in the last 5 years, and it's got a lot of growth. But it's still very affordable. If you're looking at something between $300,000 and $400,000 as a price point for a house, you can definitely find quite a bit out there. You can also find bigger square footage houses, a lot more land for the price point. So if you're willing to be a little further out from the city, super livable area, and the local municipalities are investing a lot in their parks and rec and their downtown, which is a really good sign. Speaking of development and growth, when you're 30 minutes out, I'm going to take, let's see if this does it. Oh, that didn't want to do it for me. And of course, there's no edit undo. I'm going to take my little pen here, and let's just say it's not traffic time, okay? Not traffic time. If it's not traffic time, Kannapolis, Mooresville, let's see, all of this. Oh, where'd my pen go? Here we go. Come on, pen. All of this is 30 minutes to the metro. In fact, we could probably circle down a little bit more, but my pen doesn't want to work for some reason. Okay. But hopefully you saw that. All of that area can be 30 minutes from the metropolitan on just like a normal middle of the day or weekend. And so that's a pretty expansive area that you can consider living in if you want to be close to the city, but not in the city. These areas that are 30 minutes or so out from the metropolitan, like I had said, Mooresville, Concord, Kannapolis, Belmont, Huntersville, Matthews. Okay, Mint Hill's a little bit of a smaller town, but it's got some attractions as well. Harrisburg is a really cute area. It's got a lot of parks, a lot of greenery. You can get a lot for your price point. Super livable suburbs over there. Pineville has a great downtown. It's just in a completely opposite direction. Fort Mill, I'm just going to mention it real quick. Fort Mill, you will hear referenced quite a bit, but it is technically a South Carolina city. But all of these areas, they are, 30 minutes or so from the metro, and they have so much growth. And I think that's just because over the years, as more and more people look at Charlotte, look at North Carolina, and look to moving here, yes, some will want to live in the metropolitan. They will want to be within this 485 inner circle and be pretty close to the metro. But a lot of times we want a little bit more bang for our buck. And so just keep these cities that I've circled in mind and come back to my channel as I develop more focused content on these cities that you can check more out. Or, of course, we can have conversations about what you can get in those areas. But keep that in mind. Now that we've kind of covered some basics, I'm going to zoom in. Let's zoom in because there's a lot we can talk about. Like, for example, I could talk about Gastonia, a little bit further out from Belmont, but the further out we get, like Shelby, you can find stuff in Shelby for $150,000. This is a lot more of like an agricultural rural area. And then another point of interest that I will just mention. Where are you? Hello. Here we go. Hickory, it's far. It's definitely not something I would talk about if I was talking about Charlotte, but Hickory's about an hour or so maybe a little more depending on where you're starting. And it's a beautiful, quiet town that is a nice blend of just beautiful landscape and very affordable. So I've seen Hickory top some of the charts out there. And then I just don't want to forget thoughts that are in my head. Before we zoom in on the Metropolitan, I do just want to look at Indian Trail right here, Monroe. You're going to hear people talking about. Let's zoom in so you can see a little bit more detail. Yeah, Ballantyne. There we go. Ballantyne. This is definitely a very family-friendly area. If you look on the map and you search Union County is known to have really great school district. It's probably one of the best when you're looking at the Charlotte region. But as you can see, a lot of this is quite a bit further out. So you're going to get lots of acreage out here. But depending on where you're looking at, like Indian Trail, you definitely can get things closer to the $1 million price point. Something around the Ballantyne area as well. So you can be in the Union County School District, but you're going to pay for it and you're going to be a little bit further out from the Metropolitan. While we're talking about counties, let's just give you that point of reference as well. Mecklenburg County is really the main county because, as you can see, Charlotte is in there and it's very all-encompassing of many areas, including up into Lake Norman. So Mecklenburg County is pretty dominant. And then we have Cabarrus County, which covers Concord and Kannapolis and a couple of these quieter areas up in this direction. If you want to look up north of Lake Norman, we've got Iredell County, Statesville. There's a lot of different things to consider here. But I wanted to talk that I'm losing my words because I've been talking to you guys for 22 minutes. Union County and Cabarrus County are still very close to Charlotte in terms of livability, but have great reviews for school districts. All right, let's zoom in really quick. The inner 485 loop here, I've circled it before earlier in this video. I'm going to circle it again. But basically, most of what's in here is going to take you about 10 to 20 minutes to get from one side to the other if you were cutting across. Or, 15 minutes. So if I was somewhere, I think I accidentally paused. If I'm somewhere in this Metropolitan, I can basically get anywhere in 15 minutes. So that is good to know. Let's talk about some major neighborhoods that people like to highlight when they are looking at the Charlotte Metropolitan. Now, these aren't cities, these are neighborhoods. Let's start south. Right here, we've got South Park, not to be confused with South End. Both are, I would say, relatively wealthy areas, but very different. South Park, for sure, Myers Park, anything around Freedom Park. This whole southern area right here, for the most part, has a lot of wealth. And so you will see much higher price point houses around these parks. You're going to see some that are a couple million. And South Park in and of itself has really fancy, expensive shopping, think restoration hardware. So don't get South Park confused with South End, but definitely keep South End in mind. If you've done any research on Charlotte, you probably already know about it. South End is right underneath Uptown. So it's very city-like, and it's got the main rail trail running through, so easy to commute if you want to. But it's still got tall buildings and feels very much like you're living in a city, but very accessible, very easy to walk around, relatively easy to find parking, lots of restaurants, and definitely a lot of millennials, a lot of college students, a lot of younger people that still want to be like in the city life a little bit. So South End also has some wealth for sure. You'll see houses that are $1 or $2 million in this sedge-filled South End area, as you can see, because we're getting close to Freedom Park. Dilworth, right next door to South End, is an area of interest that a lot of people keep their eyes on. It's got a lot of historic homes, and there's some parts of it that are historic neighborhoods. And it's a very easy, walkable main street that has some good restaurants. If you go to a little bit north, Wesley Heights is an area that has a lot of growth and development, has had a lot of progression. And I would say when you get up to Wesley Heights, or when you get up to a lot of what's north of the city, there's a lot of progression happening. So one street might have houses that are getting to the $1 million point, and right next door there could be houses that haven't really been touched since 1960. That's how I'll put it. Let's creep a little bit further over. Camp North End is a destination worth considering, not necessarily a neighborhood, but it shows a lot of what the progress in this area has and how it's expanding outward, because right here we've got NODA, which is known really as the arts district of Charlotte. A very cute, quieter, more cozy feeling in the downtown. Definitely very art-centric. People, artisans will pop up on the main street and sell goods during the weekends and summer, and has a totally different vibe. But lots of other good, yummy restaurants in NODA. And Plaza Midwood has houses that, can easily be between 500 and $1 million or more, depending if you are on, what's that main street? The Plaza right here. If you're on the Plaza, you could definitely see some really more higher price point homes, and some that might leak out from that. But again, I would say that one thing about Charlotte is one neighborhood could be one way, the neighborhood right next door could be totally different. So everything that's around this country club right here is really, really different. So just because NODA has something going on and Plaza has a lot of wealth, Villa Heights has a lot of wealth, some of these other ones around here are still progressing, I would say. Elizabeth, right here, you're basically talking about a midtown area. You got your Target and accessible bits and pieces, still very city feeling, but just outside of the main square. If you're talking about driving time from Plaza Midwood to NODA, you're looking about 10 minutes, 10 minutes, 10 minutes. So you can see how right when we get into these areas, we're really, really close to each other. Now, the last two things I want to mention in terms of the map is just a little bit of transportation. So when we talk about the Charlotte Douglas Airport and you want to consider drive times, let's do a little bit of routing. So say, for example, you are in Matthews and you want to know how long it's going to take you to get to the airport. Again, I'm doing this search at 5 p.m., but let's say we were to leave at a different time. So let's remove rush hour from the situation. You're looking at between 25 and 40 minutes from Matthews. If you're coming from Pineville, looking at between 18 and 30 minutes. If you're coming from Concord, it probably depends on what part, but it's going to map you to the downtown Concord, which is going to be 30 to 50 minutes. And if you are flying from Mooresville, or if you're trying to get to the airport from Mooresville, you might be looking at 35 minutes to an hour. And let's talk about Plaza Midwood. If you live right in the metro area and you want to get to the airport, 15 to 30 minutes. That's one thing I love about Charlotte. It's so easy to get to this international airport that will fly you many, many different places. And then besides the airport and how accessible that is, we do have a small light rail system. It's not incredibly complex, but depending on where you live and where you work, there are definitely some people that prefer to live close to the trail. So if you're in South End, you can see how it goes right through South End, and it's very livable. They've got a lot of really great restaurants right on the track. And I was hoping it would show us the entire line, but it won't do that. But you can see the rail trail here. So if you go through NODA, you can live a little bit further out and you can still get on the trail. Let me just mention really quick University area. I did talk about it at one point, but this is where you can see Charlotte University is right here. So you're going to have a lot of college students living in this area, but you got Target and Walmart, you've got your IKEA here, super livable area. So if you want to live anywhere close by, you can get access to all of the amenities that this area has to provide. And it's still really close to the metropolitan. Let's do the mapping on that. But if you want to, from the Charlotte area, from the college area, you can get on the rail trail and it'll take you right into Uptown. 25 minutes with traffic. So, talked about a lot here, but I think that for 30 minutes, you have a pretty good understanding of some main suburbs and cities that you will hear talked about in reference to Charlotte areas of consideration. Hopefully now you have a pretty good understanding of drive times, especially during traffic or not, and how far away are you willing to live, and all the good stuff that you might find around Charlotte. Again, this is a really, even though we talked about a lot in 30 minutes, it's still a really high level conversation from the map point of view, because there's just so much when you look at the Charlotte region in that can be considered. And I hope this video was helpful. Come back to my channel where we talk so much more about Charlotte, real estate, market trends, suburbs, cities, all the things to keep your eyes on if you are considering buying in Charlotte or moving to Charlotte. And if you are, and you're interested in talking to me about potentially being your realtor, you can call me, you can email me, or you can schedule a consultation. Again, that information is in the caption below this video, all videos, and it's on my channel homepage. See you in the next video.